time you're in a very crowded parking lot and you see the like button driving around looking for a spot, flag them down and point to your car suggesting you're going to leave, and then go to your car and stand there fumbling for your keys for a few minutes and then just walk away. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. In 1918, during World War I, British soldier Henry Tandy found himself stationed inside of a trench in northern France. By this point, Henry was already considered a war hero, and he would go on to become the most...
Hey there. Well, I can't get on here. My glove. I'm gonna take a dab instead. I really don't. But to be fair, this was actually I played Overwatch. Alrighty, that should be fixed, I believe. I had it muted because I was moving a bunch of stuff around, and then I forgot that I did that. So, but thank you. I was saying that I appreciate the love for my outfit, and that I actually had gloves that go with it and everything. But I was gonna take a dab, so I didn't want to get like wax all over everything. Not that I'm a messy dabber. I'm not. I'm actually like an OCD motherfucker about this stuff. But you never know. You never know. And I don't feel like getting them all sticky and tacky and yeah. Hold on. What just happened? I don't know what just happened. Okay, I fixed it. But it is from Overwatch. I played that game pretty consistently for like a couple years, and this was like my favorite character. She was like my go-to, my main. Yes. Is that better? Just let me know. Yeah. I hope your Halloween's going good. If you celebrate, if not, then well, I hope you're still having a good night, regardless. The good and the bad thing about like my Halloween is like I have a baby, which means like I don't get to go out and like celebrate Halloween and like fun. But it's a lot more sentimental, and instead we like literally got dressed and went out at like 5-ish, something like that, and we were back home within like an hour or so, and my kid literally came home and went straight to sleep, and he is napping, and that is why I am here with you guys. But yeah, so it's like it sucks because like yeah, I don't get to go out and like party or whatever, which I only ever did a couple times anyway, but it's kind of nice because like my kid's still a baby, so I don't have to like wait until it gets dark, and I don't have to like do all these special things. I literally just take him as soon as I can, get him home, get him to bed, and then enjoy the rest of my Halloween just hanging out. And if he wakes up and we hang out, then we hang out, but he's pretty beat. Oh, hell yeah. So, do you box at a gym or do you box with friends? Like, are you in any kind of training just for fun? What is that situation? But I'm going to press play on this video real quick because, like, I don't even know if I want to watch this. I just kind of, I don't know. I'm really into, like, murder shit and mystery shit and all that stuff. And so I really like Halloween. But some people just really suck at voiceovers or, like, really getting into the story. Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome. I've wanted to box for a really long time. I actually wanted to start boxing for the first time in my freshman year of high school, 2011. Yeah. So a little while ago. I really, really wanted to do it. I lived in a small town, and in that small town there was, like, maybe one gym, and in order to go to that gym, like, you had to, like, obviously pay your fee, whatever. But it was very much almost like you had to know somebody who was going there and had to be, like, cool with the people who were there, or else there was just no reason of going. So yeah, I just didn't go, and I was a chubby kid, and I didn't, feel comfortable exercising around people. I also had, like, actual, like problems with some of my joints. I had problems with my lungs with running. But I didn't know those things as a kid. I was just like, I'm fat. That's why. Without actually knowing that there's other shit going on, and that is contributing and making it harder for me to even lose weight, let alone work out. But it was just always something I really wanted to do. And there was somebody in my school who was kind of training and stuff in boxing and was fairly good. Did I think some local competitions and stuff. But they had, like, started training people, and I had wanted to start training with them, but their spouse and me, I guess they didn't like me, and I don't even know them. I just knew, like, of them. But yeah, so that took away that option. And then I was like, I'll just go and join a gym and box at a gym. And then I, like, started working too much. And then I stopped working out for a while. I do, like, intermittent workouts in the sense of, like, every once in a while I'll get off my ass and do something. But it's not that I'm a lazy person. It's that I have to do the things that I actually enjoy doing and, like, work out the way that I enjoy working out for me to have the motivation to get up and work out or to stick with a routine or whatever it is. And it's really difficult to do that right now, like, the way that I enjoy it the most, while I have, like, my son with me all day. Because, like, I am a stay-at-home mom now, and I'm home, like, well, literally all day. I'm literally home all day, every day, especially because we just recently lost our car, and I'm not about to walk around town, like, with my son, especially, like, once it starts to get dark or it's cold or something. So I definitely exercise plenty. It's just, like, I'm not actively scheduling time to sit down and work out. Instead, I kind of just move nonstop all day long, or play pickup with a child for, like, hours straight and spin him around. And yeah. Oh, my username? So actually, I want to start a podcast, and the name that I used for my Twitch was originally the name I was going to use for my podcast. Just so that it was, like, easier, I guess, for people to find me, which was why I used it for multiple things. But the meaning of it is, I'm Amara. Hi. But, I am neither right or left when it comes to politics. I am fairly like uh I just learned this like political term, I guess. A centrist, I guess is what I would be kind of classified as. And again, I don't like labels, I don't like classifications, but if we're going to do it, I guess this is where I would fall. Um because while I can see like very valid points on both sides, there are still like crazy extremes on both sides. And my goal of like my channel, my podcast is to have conversations with people, to challenge ideas, to figure out like a middle ground. That's essentially Amara in the middle. I'm trying to find a middle ground, somewhere where it makes everybody happy and everybody miserable, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, compromise is the only way we're ever going to get anywhere within our society. It's the only way that we're going to have any kind of relationships. It's the only way that we're going to really be able to like exist like harmoniously, I guess, is compromise. So to me, if I sit down with somebody who is extremely like left leaning and they're sharing all their, ideologies with me, then I sit down and I share my ideologies with them, and if we can have a conversation and like find a middle ground where it's not so black and white and like talk about the gray areas, I feel like that is what's going to help like rebuild our like society and like help us be a little bit more harmonious with each other and less like I don't know what the fuck that was, but I was just like, choking somebody. Yeah. I and it's something, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. But to sit down, to record, to edit, to put out all of that stuff with my ADHD is really, really difficult. Even if I'm really passionate about like what I'm talking about, like I can sit down and record it. That's not the issue. What's going to be the issue is once I get into editing anything, I get stuck. I mean, I guess that's why I prefer streaming, because I don't have to sit here and edit everything. If I say something stupid, oh well, I said something stupid. Like, I can't sit there and watch myself fuck up over and over and over again, or say something stupid, or mush my words together, or whatever it is. My ADHD gets really bad, and then my perfectionism kicks in, and then my OCD kicks in, and then it's miserable. So that's the only reason I haven't got my podcast up and going. And to top it off, I feel like it's one thing to listen to me sit there and talk for however long I talk. It's something else for me to sit down and have conversations. And I'm trying to kind of explore and meet other people and make connections and have that, like, those options and opportunities for when I start my podcast, where I can just be like, hey, I really enjoy our conversation, or I think we could really have an interesting, debate on this, or whatever it might be. Like, after I've kind of talked with them, like, even people in my chat, even people that are a little bit more higher up in, like, maybe social media worlds and everything like that. And if I ever get the opportunity to talk to, like, celebrities, like, that's cool, and that'd be awesome. And, like, their opinions and their, like, where they stand with everything, that also matters, because, like, we as societies, like, go to social media, we go to celebrities for reassurance in our beliefs and in our ideologies, and that's really scary, especially if they themselves are, like, seen as this, like, powerful person and, can do no wrong and say no wrong or anything like that. It gets really dangerous if they're not being like contested, if they're out here tweeting whatever they want to tweet, and like nobody's gonna be like, hey, what about this? Like, we don't have to cancel anybody, like that's what I'm saying, but like we should be able to have conversations, and we should be able to like ask each other questions without getting butthurt and mad, and not being friends with people or disowning family members. And it's like, so many more people are claiming, so many people on the left, and this is just a personal issue that I have, so many people on the left are claiming that people on the right, or anybody without their same ideologies or their way of life or views, is seen as like an like monster, like they're trying to do harm, and like they just want to kill all the gays, they want to kill all trans people, they just want to make you suffer and take away all like welfare programs and like all these things. The reality of it is, maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago, you'd have a little bit more ground to stand on. But in 2022, you are so delusional. While there are people who are extreme like that out there on both sides, at the end of the day, though, like, people on the right just want people on the left to acknowledge certain things, and the same thing goes the other way. Like, we just want you to acknowledge some things. We just want to be able to talk about these things. We want the truth about things. We don't want feelings to cloud reality, to cloud fact, to cloud anything, because that's what they're really good at. They're really good at that, and it can get really scary sometimes. Oh, that's dope. What is it on like Spotify? Is it on what is their podcast on? And what's it about? I'm interested. I'm very intrigued. Sorry, I just sat here rambling for a minute. I'm good at that. I actually had a therapy session today, and my therapist, so I'm not officially diagnosed with ADHD, but my partner is, and I see so many of the things that my partner struggles with or deals with in myself. So I just assumed, and then today while I was talking with my therapist, and she so kindly let me know that I don't put periods in my sentences. I don't. Not only do I not put periods, I don't breathe. So, yeah, and she's like, I do think after, working with you for these last few years, I really do think that you have a lot of signs of ADHD or ADD. I'm pretty sure ADD has been, like, taken away, and, like, it's just ADHD now, with different subcategories. So it's, like, ADHD, and then type 1, type 2 combined. And I'm pretty sure I have combined type, but I'm not diagnosed, so I'm not positive. Just based on what I know about myself, all the years I've spent in therapy, all the years I've spent like educating myself via research, the personal work I put in as well, like all of that stuff. But yeah, she said I talk too much basically, and I talk too fast, but not like in a bad way. She wasn't saying it like, oh, you need to shut up. She was just saying like, hey, this might overwhelm some people, and it might make some people shut down. And I literally was just like, holy shit, you're so right. That's literally what happens all the time. Like, with my partner, with my ex-husband, I would get going, and I'd get just, could not stop, because I had to tell you what I was thinking. I had to tell you how I was feeling so that you understood. But as I stood back in that moment with my therapist and she said all those things, I had realized that there were so many times throughout, both of my relationship, now my current one, and my past marriage, where I just kind of rolled right over them and did not shut the fuck up, did not stop, breathe, give them a second to absorb, actually hear what I was saying, and then would expect them to like respond. And then if they didn't respond within a certain amount of time, my brain would go, holy shit, you didn't explain yourself properly. Like they think you said something that you didn't mean. Now you have to explain yourself again. And I start all over again. And this can literally repeat for like, I don't know, like an hour before I'm like, holy shit, just stop, just chilled out, just calm down, take a deep breath. Yeah, and then I just take a second and I'm chill, and then I come back to it and I'm like, holy shit, I was acting retarded. I was acting like a child. Can we fix this? Can we come back from this? I apologize, and they apologize, and we move forward, and yeah. Spotify and YouTube. What is it called? I will definitely look it up. I'll look it up right now, actually, because saying that it is like strong topics, like about abortion and stuff like that, that's kind of like where I'm heading, with my stuff. And it's not even necessarily because I want to talk politics. I want to talk about things that can like educate people. And I feel like having those conversations openly, honestly, with fact and acknowledging feeling is a thing for me. And then, okay, it says, to you, it doesn't seem like that at all. I think it depends on the people. What are you talking about now? What pertaining with that? I don't know if you're talking about your friend or if you're talking about me. And then if so, what about me? You have to remember, I talk a lot. So sometimes it's hard for me to even remember what I said a few minutes ago. The Common Podcast? Hold on. I have some friends I went to school with who started, actually I have two friends who I went to school with who have both, groups. There's two groups of people I went to school with that have started podcasts, and they do a fairly good job. Is it this one? I'm assuming. Well, I really appreciate you saying that, honestly. I feel like I'm a little bit more aware because I am like speaking into a microphone. Like I can see, some things going on my computer screen and like see my chat, which means like I'm a little bit more aware, and like I'll pause to like watch you guys in the chat or like respond to what you're saying, and that totally will like make me slow down. But if I'm not looking at my chat and I'm just spilling it from my heart, well then I will ramble for fucking hours. Or if I'm anxious or paranoid, I just can't shut the fuck up. I can't. Okay, so it is this one. Okay, what we're going to do, I don't know if I want to watch their most popular one. Oh shoot, that's what I wanted to do. Or if I want to find the one that I'm the most intrigued by. Let's see. We're going to go up to more recently just because.
There's a feeling among a lot of men that talking about any kind of mental health issue or any kind of struggle is a sign of weakness. By talking about depression and anxiety with people, first you realize that you're not alone, and that a lot of other people, if not most people, go through these things.
Welcome to another episode of the Common Podcast, where we speak upon common sense and realize it really isn't that common. In the year 2020, studies show that there was a recorded 45,979 suicides, 80% of those being from men. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about men's mental health. I think there's no question that mental illness is a serious, real thing. And based off of this stat, men are struggling. But today we want to talk about the devil in the details, the source of what's going on. I think that there's no question that there is a demand of performance put on men and a standard, but we really want to talk about what is going on, how are men feeling, and what are some things that we can do in order to prevent things like this. I hope that y'all enjoy this episode. If you're a new listener, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and almost anywhere else that you can find podcasts. If you want to engage with us, interact, maybe pitch a topic, or be a part of the podcast, the best way to get in contact with us is going to be through Instagram. The handle is The Real Common Podcast. On this podcast, we are now uploading every Wednesdays and Fridays. So if you're not following, make sure you follow because you're going to miss it. Thank you all so much, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode. Peace. Mr. Freddie, welcome back.
Welcome back, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm excited to have you back. It's been about a year and a half since you've been on the show.
Yeah.
And I think, production has changed. The room hasn't really changed much. The production has changed a lot. But I'm excited to have you back on, and especially for the topic that we're gonna have today, because I think it's very important. I've kind of had like sub conversations about it, but this is the first time that on the podcast I think we're gonna attack men's mental health in this way directly. So I think it's an important conversation to have. Before I get into the conversation, I just want to do a couple of plugins for the new listeners that are here. You can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and almost anywhere else that you can find podcasts. And if you want to pitch a topic, I'm also doing live Q&As every single week. It's going to be on Instagram. The handle is going to be The Real Common Podcast. Also, I want to give a big shout out to my good friend. Her name is Lynn Lee. She did this artwork for me, which is extremely amazing. I thought
So I was gonna say something was like, oh my god, I'm retarded. What was I gonna say? I don't know. Just ignore me.
I'd shout her out, and she is a listener of the podcast. But Freddie, we're gathered here today, brother, to talk about men's mental health. And you kind of wanted, I was going to talk about this on my second podcast, and I had told you, and you were kind of like, hey, I wouldn't mind, having a discussion about men's mental health. What really spoke out to you about mental health in the light of men?
I kind of feel like mental health is like not, I think we don't take it seriously. I think like it's like I said, it's not taken seriously. But I think what I noticed for example, now in this age of era, like for example, like one thing I noticed about men is that if you notice of all the shootings in Las Vegas, all the shootings, for the past like 50 some years, there has never been a woman shooter. If you really think about it.
A woman shooter?
A woman shooter.
You think that has to do with anything of just men being more like primal, aggressive people as opposed to women?
What I feel is like, I think like men they have so much pressure. I noticed that it wasn't that much pressure in the 50s, 70s, but I noticed that like 70s, 90s, like I think basically more in the social media age, there has been more shootings because you can go live in shootings and like that's what I noticed. I noticed that there has been more shootings and every guy wants to be, I guess, on top, but I do notice that they deal with something mental.
Oh yeah, definitely. There is definitely a demand of performance from male. That's like, there's no question about that. There is a standard that men need to be competent. They need to be at the top, right? And I think this is like a never-ending thing, an ongoing thing. You can always do better, and you're always expected to do better as far as men go. But I wanted to talk about this And the reason why I want to go about it as far as talking about men, because women also do go through, you know,
Yeah,
mental
of course.
health illnesses and issues, right? But in 2020, there was a study done where 45,979 people were recorded suicide victims, and 80% of those were men. So there's obviously a huge tilt being in the men side of, you know, the whole spectrum. And I think that is something important to talk about. So I think the question is why? Why is it 80% men? Why is the majority men that are committing suicide? That's an important issue, and I think that it all goes down to the standard that the social standard that men have as opposed to women, because women have a lot of other things to deal with. Women are strong beings. I don't want to knock women here, right? Women have children, which is a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And they're, for the most part, responsible for taking care of them and whatnot. But men have something that there is this stigma, right? There's a stigma that men really can't show any weakness. They can't show any vulnerability. They can't really speak out. And if you do that, you kind of like, you start to not,
Weak.
well, you look weak, right? But you're not trying to get on top of that hierarchy. If anything, you're lowering yourself. You're lower, like you're.
I do find this really interesting, um, because I'm a very big advocate and very passionate about men's mental health, like hugely. It has personally affected my life in several different ways, and I am the sister. I have one older brother, and then I have four younger brothers, um, as well as like six sisters. But I have watched my brothers struggle with their mental health, with their emotions, with communication, with, you know, anything that involves emotional intelligence. Um, and I have seen them really struggle. And it's really sad, obviously, but it is really scary more so because I know I have attempted suicide, and I know if I have, I know that they have, because I am a little bit more stable. It didn't always seem that way to everybody, but that was because I expressed my emotions and instead of shutting everything off. And that is why, like, we're all at such different points right now. I do love my brothers like so much, but the two closest to my age, it's been very difficult for us, and we all share the same father. Our father is a rapist. Our father is a child molester. He is a woman beater. He is a drug dealer, drug user. He's just a horrible person. Really, really, truly horrible person. And we all had to experience him. My sisters, I feel the most deeply for when it comes to his, like, daily involvement in their lives. But they don't understand the prolonged experience that we had because we are so much older. And we kind of experienced him at a different point in time. So I know, like, everything they went through is incredibly difficult and incredibly, like, painful, and it disgusts me to think about, but I'm not going to pretend that the severity of the things that happened my brother saw didn't affect them and doesn't still affect them. And then on top of not only having my brothers whom I love with, like, all my heart, there is also, like, my my uncle was abused, and My uncle also did drugs and was in jail and was in a gang, and he struggled really bad with mental health and with talking about things and expressing his emotions, and that was something I didn't know. I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't really know until I got a little bit older. And when I was in high school, I met three really incredible, phenomenal, genuine guys. Like, were so considerate and kind and loving and strong. You know, like, they were strong while being soft and just there. And no, I don't mean that in like, oh, there's just someone there. It's like they were really there for me when I needed somebody. And nobody even knew. Like, they talked to me, reached out to me, cared about me. Not in the way that would make sense to people. There was also another person. I had my first like real boyfriend. I dated a lot when I was little, like, and that's when I say like dated. When I was in eighth grade and seventh grade, I started dating, and like I dated a lot, but I didn't like do things with these people. It was just like we date and break up. It was middle school, you know. It was whatever. Well, I dated a family friend, and our families were already close. We got even closer. We stayed kind of in touch. They lived like an hour away. I had no way to see them until they came down to visit family, and that was really hard. I had trust issues. They had family issues, and it just didn't work, and it was fine. I had no hard feelings. We were still good friends. We still remained friends after that. But this person continued down a really dark path and started using drugs and started living on the streets and took his life while in jail a few months back. While he was in his jail cell, he hung himself, and that wasn't the first time I have experienced one of my ex-boyfriends committing suicide. When right after I had graduated from high school, I moved to Texas, and then after Texas, I moved to Santa Cruz. And when I was living in Santa Cruz, I got a phone call from one of my best friends, and me and this girl were friends in high school. We were super, super close, and she actually started dating my ex-boyfriend, and me and this person had only dated for like a week or two, and it was nothing really serious, but like I said, they were amazing. They really were. I was literally just going through a really hard time personally, and it just didn't make sense to be with somebody that I couldn't see again. So we ended up breaking up. He dated my best friend, and they ended up getting pregnant not too short, like after high school. And while I was living in Santa Cruz, I got a phone call and a text message letting me know that Dylan had taken his life. And then I heard everything else after that. I heard how much he had really been struggling. I heard about his notebook and everything he had started writing in it. I heard about the drugs and the abuse and the toxic relationship with my friend and all of it, and she told me how she found him hanging, I believe in their carport garage space, and she was a few minutes late. So that was really hard and different. But yeah, sorry. It's a very touchy subjects, but they're like important to talk about because like these guys are really important to talk about because they showed me that not all guys are the same. And I really used to believe that, and it took some amazing guys to really change my mind on that after repeated physical abuse and sexual assault and, you know, all the fun things. So while it is difficult to talk about, I am also really happy to mention their names. And there is one other person who took his life shortly after high school, and his name is Dan, but unfortunately he was living away, and he was in the military, I believe. I can't remember which one it is, but I believe it was a military. And then just wasn't here anymore. So men's mental health is incredibly serious. Men's mental health is something that needs to be talked about more often, because on top of my brothers who are still with me today, who struggle with their mental health issues, or if it's my partner, or if it's my father, who obviously, and my uncle, who obviously, the two that abused me, struggled with mental health issues. I feel like if those things were acknowledged more often, and guys had felt like they could talk about these things and not feel small, and be told that they're small for doing it, like, we could get somewhere. A lot of things would change. Like, women's safety would change. I don't think like many people realize a lot of the reasons like men are physically abusive and or sexually aggressive and all these things is because of unresolved trauma. So if we really want to get to the root cause of things, we'd really look at the trauma and all the things that are going on and happening and actually talk about it and like let people know, yeah, you do need to go to therapy. Yeah, you do need to talk about this with your friend or somebody you trust. If whatever, write about it. But it needs to come out in some way, and you need to work through it, because like, you can change. You don't have to be this person. You became this person for survival, and that doesn't have to be you anymore if that's who you decide not to be. But you have to like really face the truth, and a lot of people won't give a guy the opportunity or the room or the respect to do that, and that is incredibly sad.
You're just looked upon as very incompetent and, like you said, a weak person. I think fundamentally that's where men really struggle with, because they know if I'm struggling and I'm weak, nobody's gonna want me, right? Yeah. That goes back to the demand of performance. I think Chris Rock said it perfectly, right? I don't know if you've seen that clip.
Yeah, I've seen it where dogs are...
The only people that are loved unconditionally are dogs, females, and kids. Men are only loved upon the things that they provide. Right, yeah. And that's 100% true. Men have to create value. The women, kids, they're seen as very precious things, and regardless, I mean... But for men, I gave this example the other day on the second podcast. My second podcast is, what if I decided that work is just way too stressful for me and I don't want to work anymore? Yeah. And I couldn't pay the house. I couldn't pay the car. I couldn't provide for my family, so we had to go move back in my parents' house. And then my wife was the only one working. How would people look upon me?
Or people who think that you're weak. That
I'm a
you're
low
not
life.
bad.
I'm weak. I'm nothing.
Because even that, like, you don't work.
Exactly. So, but now let's look at the opposite side of the spectrum. My wife is pregnant. She has our child, and she says, I want to stay home and take care of the kid. And let's say I had a job I was able to do that, right? You know what? I make enough money. I agree with you. You go ahead and stay home. You take care of the kids, and I'll take care of all the financial.
Yeah.
Nobody say that's wrong, right?
No.
That's totally fine.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a dream.
that's an agreement that they have made upon each other. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, on the opposite side, now let's say I was the stay-at-home dad, and then my wife was the one making all the bank, all the bread, and I was at home. I would look silly, right?
Yeah.
And I was live streaming yesterday, and I was talking to this female in the chat, and I had talked about that, and they said, no, I don't think it is like that. But I don't think females truly understand what men have to go through and the scrutiny that other men put on them.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe a female might understand that, but me looking at you, like if you did that, I would be like, hey, what's going on with Freddie? He's a stay-at-home dad, like doesn't want to work. He doesn't have any ambitions. That is the stigma behind the demand of performance and men having to go out there and provide. I think that's at the basis level. What are some things that you've kind of like experienced with that? I would look silly, right?
Yeah.
And I was he's a stay-at-home dad, like doesn't want to. I don't think females truly understand what men have to go through and the scrutiny that other men put on them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I turned my volume down so I could eat some crackers, but I wanted to say that I agree to an extent with what your friend is saying, like in this very particular, like in the sense that I went back on and re-listened to, because when he says, I don't think women truly understand the scrutiny that men put other men through, we do. We hear it. We see it all the time. But we get called a bitch and stuff like that when we say your friend is being an asshole, or we say, they don't know what they're talking about, or they should just keep it, it's not their business. Let them keep it to themselves. Like, if a woman speaks up in those incidences, it's very much like, shut your mouth. You know what you're talking about. This is a guy thing. This is how guys, and it's like, no, it's not how guys. Like, that's not cool. That's not a real friendship. You should be able to sit down and talk with your friends, and like, if they see that you're not working or whatever, they should be like, hey, everything okay? It doesn't have to be this sappy, like, oh, come here, let me hold you, let me cry in your like lap, and let me pat your back. Like, no, you can be a friend. You can sit there with somebody, you can hug somebody, like, but it doesn't have to be this like overly dramatic display of emotions, which is what women tend to do and what we're really good at. It's just like comes out. But men don't have that opportunity, and so when they do finally like let something out, it either comes out cold or angry, or like overly emotional. And I feel like that's because they haven't had the opportunity to figure out their perfect balance on how to communicate, because they're not given the opportunities to communicate. And when they do try to communicate, you beat them out and down and everything else. So it's not that women don't see it. It's that I feel like we can't speak on it anymore. Because like when we do, we're like, it's the whole like, well, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. It's the idea that masculinity has to be this particular thing that is toxic. And it's this like weird like power dynamic hierarchy that's toxic. It's not like guys themselves or masculinity itself is toxic at all. But I think that like there's just so miscommunication, like so much miscommunication between men and women, that when women are sitting here saying like you're toxic or he's toxic, they are using it way too broadly, way too often. And then like, yeah, guys aren't gonna take what you're saying seriously, and then it does sound kind of like you're just fucking complaining and coming at them and like talking down on their friends. But if you're somebody who's aware of like what the true meanings of these words mean, and you use them in proper situations, you don't just throw them around for everything, then when your partner tells you like, oh, this is what happened, and you tell them this doesn't feel like a very healthy friendship, it feels a little toxic, they should take that seriously and then look back on the friendship and make adjustments where necessary. Either communicate properly with that friend, let them know what's going on, let them know like, hey, I do want to be able to talk to you about stuff, or hey, you know, I'm not really comfortable with the way that you approach this situation with me, or we need to set some boundaries, or you know, whatever it is. It's the lack of communication, it's the constant like, well, you don't understand, well, you don't understand, well, you could never understand, so just, you know, it's this whole back and forth, where I feel like it really kind of sucks, because I feel like that's another reason, like, I'm in the middle on that. Like, I do know men and women are different, but I'm also very aware that our brains are so similar that all it takes is some hormones. And I'm not talking about, like, synthetic hormones. I'm talking about, like, natural hormones, like, your body is currently producing, that can make you feel or see things differently. As somebody who has, like, higher, like, androgens, and, like, meaning my male hormones are higher than higher than they should be, like, my levels are higher, my brain is exposed to more testosterone and, like, more male hormones, meaning that I tend to see things a little differently, or feel differently, or act just a little bit differently than all the other girls I've ever grown up with. Like, and that's where I've always felt, like, I have always felt so out of place, and I never understood why. And it wasn't until I got older and figured out, like, oh, hey, this can have an effect on your brain and make you feel these different ways or see these different ways. I'm not saying that is the case for everybody, but I just feel like there is a good amount of people who are not aware of that. And because we don't talk about that, and if we do try and talk about that, we're told, like, you're trying to say that this isn't real, or that this isn't true, or this doesn't happen. It's like, no, I'm trying to say that sometimes this does happen, and I feel like people should be aware of that. So if they have something similar, they can get proper treatment, proper help, whatever it is. Like, men, women, children, everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe a female might understand that, but me looking at you, like, if you did that, I would be like, hey, what's going on with Freddie? He's a stay-at-home dad, like, doesn't want to work. He doesn't have any ambitions. That is the stigma behind the demand of performance and men having to go out there and provide. I think that's at the basis level. What are some things that you've kind of, like, experienced with that?
Personally, like, for example, how can I say this? It's being a man now in this era. It's like, it's real hard, man. Like, because the thing is, like, if you decide to take off, like I said, if you decide to take off, you feel weak, like in life in general. You know, you can't take a break from being a dad, or you know, it's just, it's real hard, man. Like, because some people don't understand, like, when being a man in this world is that you're constantly being watched. Every move you make is you're being watched. You know, any mistake, you know, you're gonna be criticized. You're gonna be criticized for any kind of mistake that you do as a man. You know, and it sucks. It really does suck, like, that happens.
How comfortable are you with talking about your problems, your feelings with other men? Generally, obviously, I think you might have maybe one or two people that that are men.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, how willing are you to like speak to other men?
It's hard to talk to a man because you kind of if I want to talk to you or if I want to talk to a guy, a friend, you kind of withdraw back because you're like, no, I don't want him to think like I'm a wuss, or you know, you don't want to be that way. A woman, for example, they can go to their friends and they can go like to their dinners and their brunch, and you know, they could fully express who they are, and they're not gonna get any like lashback. They're not gonna be like saying, oh, you're weak, or you're this, you're that. You don't get that.
Yeah.
As a man, if I talk to another man about it, it's like you will seem like you're weak. Another man that's probably like, let's say you, for example, you're one of those guys that are tough nosed, hard nosed, like, dude, like, stop being a wuss. I want to say, keep on going. But like, and it'll hurt you. But you know, that's the thing. Like, when people don't know that, some women don't understand that part of being a man.
Yeah, definitely. There's some ignorance in that as well, though, right? I feel like some men, even if sometimes smarter, is even looked upon as negligence. So what I mean is, like, you see like a construction worker, like somebody like a blue collared hardworking man, and you see another guy who is very smart, who does an office job, makes a decent amount of money. The construction worker, the blue collared guy, would look at him and be like, nambe, like, look at him, he's stuck in the office, like he doesn't do any man work, or he doesn't go out and make his money. So I think also with the whole hierarchy thing that I was talking about earlier, men are kind of really dumb about how they really degrade other men.
Yeah.
And I want to lead into that later on in the conversation. But that just proves to me personally that we kind of do it to ourselves. Like, men kind of do it to ourselves. Like, there is a standard done but by men. And the same thing with women, because women do this with beauty, right? The girl always wants to be more beautiful than the girl next to them. That's why they buy the makeup, the better makeup. That's why they dress a certain way. They're always doing things. And it's always like who can be the prettier person. But for men, it's like, who can be the hardest worker? Who can make the most money? Yeah. Right? All this stuff. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, I worked in both kind of positions where I was because I used to be a mechanic. I used to be that hardworking, like, hardworking guy, you know. But now I'm doing an office job, you know, I see the difference, because I remember when I was outside, man, the guys outside, these guys are inside, they're in the AC, todo tranquilo. And they're like, oh, they don't have to handle it. You know, they don't have to handle the
They can't do what I do.
They can't do what I do. You need me, and I don't need you. You know, there was a time where I was like that. Where I was like, you know, when I was young, being in a dealership, I'm like, you know, you guys I don't need you, because the thing is that I can fix a car. A customer can come to me, he can tell me what he needs, and I'll fix it, but we don't need you. But then as I grew into the business, like, in reality, we do need them, because the thing is that because they help us sell. We help each other out.
Yeah, and I don't take you as somebody who is very, like, a harsh person. So this is what I'm trying to say is, I think that we're groomed, right, from very young, right? And we heard, I talked about this on another podcast that I had about why men hide their emotions. And a lot of it has to do with the way that we're raised, right? Man up. Don't be a wuss. That's for girls. Don't show your emotions. Keep all of that sheath, right? Because true men are strong, and, you know, they
macho, and and the thing is that, if you cry, I think, like, I feel like if you cry in front of a woman, you're risking it.
Oh yes,
like
100%.
You're risking it, because you're gonna risk it, because it's kind of like really. But the thing is that I think they don't understand that, like, you gotta understand is, like, all men are grown to hold their feelings. Even from pee-wee football, from like I said, we're all grown to hold our feelings inside. So we cry to you. Some women see it as a weak thing, but I think if they're doing it closed doors, I think that's where I think women should understand. It's like, yo, he's being vulnerable. He trusts you. He doesn't, because we can't cry. I can't cry in front of another man. Because if we cry in front of him, I mean, if we're not gonna if we can't even say our problems to him, what makes you think we're gonna cry in front of another man?
100%. And so this is where this is what I think about that. I think there's two opposite sides of the spectrum. I think there is the super hard-nosed guy, as you describe him as, the guy that doesn't show his emotions, the guy that nobody wants to talk to because, he seems like a very tough individual, right? He's an honorable man, whatever. Then there's the super emotional guy, the weak link, whatever, who's always he's crying, he's the crybaby, right? I think there's a delicate balance. I think there's a delicate balance in the middle, because I think the hard-nosed guy, the blue-collared guy, I think those are the ones that end up being depressed later on in life. Yeah. Right? Because they hoard.
So this bitch, my cat. The fuck? My mouse disappeared. This bitch. She likes goldfish, and she saw me eating goldfish, so she decided to jump on my lap, and I am wearing this jumpsuit that is thin, and she has extra toes, and I can feel them. You want some pussycat ASMR? Stop it. I don't feel like being scratched right now. My headset's giving me a headache. There we go. Okay.
They hoard all those emotions in. Later on in life, they're going to feel that, and then that's going to overtake them. Pop. Exactly. Now, on the opposite side, the crybaby guy, that person is not really going to get much in life, because it is true that if a guy is overly emotional, he is not going to really get anywhere, right? Yeah. In that hierarchy. Nobody's going to respect that person. I think there's a balance in the middle. Yeah. I think what it comes down to is self-awareness for a man to be able to understand when and where can I be vulnerable? What are some things?
I do enjoy your friend's podcast very much. I just don't know when my son's gonna wake up, and I do kind of want to watch a little bit of this episode. Pretty sure it came out, this last week. Break it. Oh.
To stand up on your spot, I am your host, Jeremiah Watt.
Oh my god. I think my brain exploded a little bit.
All right, that's a
Can you
good
stop?
good portion of y'all. Let me explain how the show works. We, the comedians, are coming up here with no prepared material. We're going to ask you guys, the audience, for suggestions. You're going to yell stuff out, and we have to create stand-up on the spot. So it's important you yell out some good stuff, and we're going to try to spin it into gold. This audience sounds a little apprehensive right now. The air got sucked out of the room when I said that. But it's going to be awesome. What do you say we kick it off right here, right now, huh? Could I get my first suggestion?
Toucan Sam.
Underbite. Underbite, and a douchebag yelled out, Toucan Sam over here. Let's get those out of the way. Just the physical insults from the audience. This dude saw my profile and was like, I'm hungry for cereal right now. I don't know what's going on. That was you? It was like Captain Crunch ate all his admirals, all his shipmates. Let's see, underbite. Man, you can't trust anybody with an underbite. You said what? You said Hunter Biden, and I heard underbite. You can't trust Hunter Biden either. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. And both people have underbites because they're looking for cocaine and stuff. Next suggestion, what do we got?
Cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders. I wonder if cheerleaders are happy with their lives now. I know they were the most popular.
Well, my lovelies, my littlest one is awake. My littlest one, my only one. So I have to skedaddle and be mom. I'm gonna try and get back on later because it is only 8:30. Kind of depends on how long it takes him to get tired and fall back asleep. We'll see. Happy Halloween. I know I didn't get to my spooky stuff, but it was fun hanging out, chilling, talking, checking out your friend's podcast, and getting a little deep on this day of Hallows Eve. Anyway, have a good one.